Welcome to the Tone Jerks podcast. I'm your host, Brian Gower, and with me today we got...
Kyle McIntyre.
Oh, and then we got a guest on the show.
Yeah.
Long time coming. I don't think we've had you solo, but we have
That's right.
Justin from the Tone Control podcast. Say hi, Justin.
Hello. I mean, hi, Justin.
Oh, there
Sorry.
you go.
See, I already screwed it up.
Take two. Take 37.
Give it to me again. Give it to me again.
We're doing it live.
Oh.
Yeah, we were on the Tone Control, a couple weeks ago, or your last episode.
Last episode, but we're so slow that it was a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
But so that was a lot of fun. And then figured, I'm like, I've had Derek on the show, I think a couple times solo. And I'm like, wait, we need to get the better half on the show.
Oh, no.
He's not here, so we can talk shit. But no, it's always fun having both you guys on, and even having Derek. I'm like, you know what? We can get really down and nerdy about recording and mixing and all that stuff, because that's what Justin does for a living. So, recording, mixing, audio engineer, and I'm like, okay,
It all.
I have a lot to learn, a lot to ask, and I know Kyle does too. So this is mainly just going to be for us. I'm like, okay, what should you do for the... Anyways, that'll be...
Okay.
How do you record?
What is a recording? But we'll get into that. But before we do, let's get into the what's news with everybody. Kyle, what's new in your world? What's shaking? What's grooving? What's good?
I got some big news. My wife was actually able to move out to Texas, finally. So she braved the long drive, and she got here the other day. And
so she's just
exciting.
like you. She's a native Texan now.
Yeah, she's native. She's native for the last 2 days.
Yeah.
It's an awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's nothing notable on the drive, which is good because there's a lot of shit that can happen on the way. But she made it here safe. She brought, most importantly, she brought me some gear. I'm just kidding. She was able to. I haven't done like a full move yet, so it's kind of like I moved out here to establish with the job and get a house and stuff, and I haven't moved everything yet. So we're working on that. But I got my grabber bass that I was able to throw up on the wall. She surprised me with that. I asked for a couple Tellys that you had, ripped them out of your cold dead hands.
Yeah.
And then she brought a bunch of pedals, so that's all I needed.
Yeah.
So my guitar, I guess my symphony of guitars in the back of me has grown. I guess I had double basically. I had a bass and two guitars. Now I have two more. Another bass and two guitars. So I need some more hangers.
And you still have a shitload in San Diego too. I honestly think you have more guitars than I do.
No, yeah, definitely.
And I'm like, all right. Well, and then
some more projects still, but
yeah,
I think I still have more whole guitars than you. But
yeah, and projects because I don't have any.
Yeah, you don't have any.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to dig you on your projects. Probably a good thing you don't have any projects.
Mm-hmm. So I brought the Tellys because I had the blue Telly and your Cabernita. I borrowed those. I wasn't getting a whole lot of playtime on them. I was like, okay, cool. Kind of just was playing around, played around like the first week or so. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like having more than just one pickup on these. And then I'm like, I think kind of, been busy or, maybe neglectful of my guitar playing. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I kind of just put them on the rack. And then when you're like, oh, I want those Tellys back, I'm like, they would put up no fuss. I'm like, yeah, 100%. One, they're yours. And two, I'm like, I'm not even using them. The one thing I'm still holding on to that I'll send Kyle's way is the Sans Amp.
Yeah.
I have his bass driver Sans Amp, the Tech 21.
You're a thief.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I was using it for my band just in case. And then I have since got a B7K Ultra V2. Awesome. But I want to do a comparison video, the Sans Amp versus the B7K. It's just, slow going with the content there, but it's honest. They're so different, but still so great. Justify. And I think you did a demo on your show of the B7K Ultra. You were using it for a band, I think, for a DI. You did one of those pedal genie things.
I've had them in a couple of times. Yeah, once for that, and then we also had one of the Darkglass amps. One of my clients had that has that in the front end of it, the B7K part of it.
Yeah.
So kind of both flavors. Yeah, fun.
They're rad sounding. Except there's a huge difference. Like a used, Sans amp, you can probably get like $100,
Yeah.
or maybe 120, probably even under. There's like it's kind of in that range. Whereas a B7K, like V2, you're looking at $400. So I'm like, they're both good, but one's $400. Anyways, so that's why I'm holding on to one of Kyle's last piece of gear.
Dude.
I'll get it to you.
Just running direct with my bass, not even getting any flavor on it. No,
but
I could.
Aren't
use
you
that.
your own flavor though? I mean,
Yeah.
Are you not enough? You're
Yeah.
enough, Kyle.
he puts
Thank you so
like
much.
barbecue sauce on his bass. I'm like, I need more flavor.
That's what they told me to do.
This slippery and sticky,
Yeah.
nasty shit.
Yeah, but
Anyways, that's my what's new.
yeah. Did you miss the guitars? Were you like just like Telly all weekend?
Because I have two Strats. I have like one that's two humbuckers, and then I have the three singles, and I don't have like a Telly setup. I'm like, what does a Telly even sound like? What is Telly? And then I have the non-Telly, the Cabernita, So, but the blue Telly, which is behind me, you can't really see. I'm better a wall than a window. It's like your Tellyest Telly with the what are the pickups? Not the Crystal Palace, but
Glacier T pickups. So
Glacier T.
From Sonic Pickups, he makes the Crystal Palace humbucker, which is like a 5K output humbucker. It's like really low, and it's my favorite humbucker. And then I think he was talking and I'm like, oh, what if you did like a single coil version or a Telly? He's like, oh yeah, I can do that. So he made like a 5K output for neck and bridge and called it the Glacier T's. And it's awesome. Just, I don't know, having a low output guitar, I don't know. It's, to me, I'm like, it's opposite of what I ever thought about guitar, because you always want the high gain, like Blake does this, and JB, which is like I think still a 16 or 17K output, that's pretty high. And I'm like, well, because if you're playing distorted, you want more distortion. More is better. More louder, more
Stack
better.
it up, baby.
Exactly. And then when you play low output, you're like, oh, this actually really, like, I don't know, to me works a little bit better, especially if you're doing some of the modeling type stuff with like Fractal or Helix or something. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I know with Fractal they had this like little like input pad, kind of light. Feel like if you're hitting it too hard, it's like, whoa, chill out. I'm like, and then with the FX8, it would do that. Like, yo, you're hitting the front end of this digital fucking like processor too loud. It's just like
blowing the back out on that thing.
Exactly. So it could yeah. Take it easy. Take it easy. Take it easy.
This is my first time. Slow down.
Jeez.
You're Fractal,
Yeah. So I always kind of thought, I'm like, oh, putting a lower output, just to kind of like for the idea of digital, and then actually it sounds good through analog gear as well. So kind of stumbled upon that maybe a couple years ago, but
I still like higher output on bass though. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not humbucker like I used to roll with, but quarter pounders, a little heavier. And
then with that's a 76 Gower, so it's a definitely more vintage voiced pickups than that compared to the quarter pounders in the P bass.
Yeah,
which is like the more Markopus, I mean other people use them, but it's like really just high output.
But who cares about those other people?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, somebody else from, I think it was, I already forgot the band. I was going to name them to be like, oh, I know somebody else.
Because they don't matter. That's why.
Exactly. I know someone else from not Blink. No, never mind. Just San Diego boy. But no, that's rad. I think, like you had mentioned, some guitar racks, more, or hangers at least.
Yeah, I need to just fill the wall up.
Maybe.
I got the blank space here too. I might move the safe to another room. I
could do it. Or the you got to keep the Kyle like self-portrait.
I love that, by the way. Especially just this setting, like just with yourself up behind you. It's just amazing.
Oh, that old thing? Oh,
blows
don't
me
worry
away.
about that. That's my grandpa. No.
Just a picture of yourself. It's the best. Oh my gosh.
And it's huge. It's like 2 feet by 2 feet. It's not like my sister painted a huge fucking piece of wood. Awesome. So.
You know what you need? Here.
A painted portrait of yourself. That's I don't know. To me, I'm like that's the best. Anyways,
so that's my what's new.
I'm digging it. Justin, what's new with you?
Gosh, what do I have for this? I don't know. Man, what is new with me? I don't know, man. I play a lot of video games. I'll tell you what. Because that's not interesting.
Are you playing Elden Ring?
No, I'm not. Isn't that weird?
No, what? Yeah.
Everybody
Why would I
plays
play
that.
Yeah.
No, I'm into. Okay, well, I'm on a new. I got to remember, like, I'm on a new podcast now, new to me, and I'm a VR player actually. So
okay,
as a couple of years ago, I got a VR headset and I play at PC games, and I took to it, and so games on flat screens really struggle to interest me at this point. So no disrespect to Elden Ring, I get that it's like the hottest new shit.
That's noob bullshit.
But basically, if I'm looking, it's like, but that's a flat picture of a video game that's like looking at a window. It's like looking at a painting on a wall. Where's the depth, man? So anyway, but
you gotta really impress me.
I gotta be able to see into, anyway. I play VR games. It's fun, but I'll tell you what. My daughter is 6.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, she's 6.5. She's 6. Let's be fair. She's 6.5.
Because so I'm sure she says like, Dad, I'm 6.5, not 6.
Oh yeah, I'm 6.5, you dummy. We actually, my wife and I play a lot of tabletop games and stuff like that too. So we're like getting her like into board games and stuff like that. And the kid games are just indescribably stupid. It's really rough. But kids are, when they're small, they're super stupid. And this probably, you got to do this. But anyway, she's getting up to an age where she can start to have an actual game. So we got the Settlers of Catan Junior.
Okay.
Right. So Catan's like, I don't know if you guys are board gamers, but classic tabletop, like adult tabletop game kind of thing.
Yeah.
Resource management, all this stuff. And it's the kids version. And the way they sort of like simplified it is pretty clever. They didn't take very much out of the game. And she took to it and she gets it. She's trading this resource for this. And now I can build my fortress and now I can build my ship and I need more wood and all this other stuff. She's figuring that stuff out right away. And I'm very proud and happy. We just played another game this afternoon. So I'm in proud papa zone, I guess.
Instead of like, some boring or dumb kid game, you're like, we're not playing Candyland. We're playing
Candyland, exactly. She loves Candyland. It's literally, you pull up a card and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And what? That's not a game. That's learning how to turn a card over. Yeah.
I've never, I've heard of that game, the Settlers of Catan?
Yeah.
I guess they talk about it on a podcast. They're like a comedy podcast, and they're like, kind of shit on a lot of stuff. They always just like take the piss out of everything. And then where like stupid things they really in earnest like, they're like, I like playing adult games. Yeah, like Mario Party, because I'm a competitive person.
A competitive Mario Partier.
And then they're like, so we took our time to go, to a cabin to record podcasts and then do coke, and then we played Catan a bunch of times because that's what adults do. That's what you do when you're a successful podcaster. And I'm like, oh man, minus the coke part, I might want to try that game.
Yikes! Yeah, Catan's like, it's an old classic, and it's one of the classics that's like, this is when I say adult game, it's not like blackjack is an adult game, but this is like, it's not a kid's game, and it's sort of complicated for complicated's sake, and it's like Monopoly in that way. You could say it's in that zone, but it's not the mainstream. It's like the nerdy version of an adult game. You have to actually, like, everybody's heard of Monopoly, but you have to pay attention to board games before you've heard of Catan. But then within that world, it's like, it's too popular. So now it's like, if you're really into board games, it's not cool to like Catan because that's too classic and too big or whatever. So anyway, it's like that. So real board gamers are like, oh, I'm so sick of Catan.
Or like another idea for like an adult game is you could play Go Fish, but play it with like a nudie deck.
Everything's
Okay.
adult with the nudie deck
There you go.
Yeah.
Kyle, you're like, I'm with it.
on board.
Set right here.
It was like
back in.
a joke I was trying to say, and I'm like, oh, I got it. A minute, go. Just hit it out of the park.
Yep.
I've been playing Paper Mario. It's fucking sick for N64. But that's a boring game. It's like not even.
I jumped back into Fallout 4.
Nice.
So that's been fun.
The one
And,
everybody hates. Or no, there's 76 now. There's the
76
online
is
one.
what-
So now people
yeah.
can now people can admit that they liked Fallout 4 all along.
Yeah, 4's great. I love 4.
I thought
I've always
4 was
loved
good.
it.
Is that also a first-person shooter?
It could be first or third. I mean, you can do over the shoulder. Kind of screws you up if you've played your whole life first person, then you're like third person. You're like, none of my rounds are hitting. Yeah,
And you can do that in VR too.
yeah.
Fallout 4
nice.
got a VR port. So
you like it? You love that game? You're like,
I played Fallout 4 when that came out, which
Yeah.
was long before I got my hands on VR. Back when computers were weak and pathetic, and now I have a monster computer that can render everything 3 times and move my head around and all this other crap. So
nice.
Well, you also do Twitch streaming. Do you do that with the VR games?
yeah. So my Twitch stream is like pretty exclusively VR games. There's like one main game I play and then occasionally some other ones. And people say streaming in VR is a little rough because it's hard for me to see what's going on. And I have like a camera on and I have this thing on my face, and so I look like an idiot. But you lean into it, you know.
I'll have to
It's cool.
get that that link. But what is it? Twitch TV /
JN Tracks, JNTRACKS.
Yeah,
That's my Twitch. Don't
is it, give them subscribers and bits, right?
Yep.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, so I've been for almost a year. I had affiliate on Twitch. So yes, I have actually been paid to play video games by Twitch.
Nice.
Takes a really long time because I'm not cool or popular, but they pay me a very small amount every time somebody watches me.
Oh, there you go. So we get that plug in at the end too.
Yeah.
Nice. Let's see.
Brian.
What about you, dude?
I did buy something that I didn't need that
No way.
I already kind of had and sold.
Kyle's Sans app.
No,
Did I get it?
I sold it. I bought a power cab off Reverb, so a Matrix like FR, the full range, full response or whatever, 1x12, for use with my Fractal. For eventually when I get my band together.
I'm getting the band back together.
Right now I'm playing bass in my band just in case, but I do always like playing and singing, with guitar. And I want to get that going eventually. I essentially already have band members that haven't heard anything I've written before.
But they're already on board.
Yeah, it's my drummer for Just In Case and previously Playing Without a Pilot, Brian Rash, and a friend of the show, Johnny Ray. He was like, "Yeah, I'll play bass."
Johnny Ray.
And so, and I'm like, "Well, what's it going to sound like?" I'm like, "Pretty much Playing Without a Pilot without Kyle." It's like, "Are you going to do anything different?" I'm like, probably not."
No, you just said you're the bass player. You're the one doing things different.
Yeah,
Obviously.
Legal contract. You're already a part of the band, so you have to play.
He's like, he's probably gonna like play finger style instead of pick, so that'll be different. And then we'll probably have songs where Kyle guest vocals on it, so it'll be
Just
like,
send me the
that'll
file.
be the same.
Try.
It'll be just like Playing Without a Pilot. But the idea was like, eventually, like I want to, probably my rig is gonna be, who knows what it is, but I'm like in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna keep doing Axe 8, or if I do get the FM3 from Fractal, I really dig their shit, and I'm like the idea of playing with a power cab on stage, and then front of house just gets the XLR, with my speaker out, or speaker emulated IRs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I'm like, that's a good buy, right? It's half off of what it is brand new. They're unavailable new, so it's be $800
Isn't that
new.
weird?
$800 new, $400 on Reverb used. I'm like, okay, I gotta just get it. And I was texting Johnny and Kyle and a bunch of other people. And Kyle's just like, just fucking get the thing. And I'm like, okay, say less, buy.
Derek has one of those. Yeah, I don't know if it's exactly the same one, but he loves it.
Yeah, if you're playing live, a lot of venues that you're gonna do, it's like you probably want some stage volume.
Yeah.
Even if you had in-ears, it'd be like, okay, you want to hear something. Like, even though front of house is still getting like a good signal, there's potential that maybe people in the crowd would like it, or even just because if you're just on stage with just drums and you're playing, I mean, we're not playing. And if I had a new band, I'm not going to play like big shows and stadiums. I'm playing some dive bar. And so
yeah. So right, you just have a little backup. You don't want to leave that all up to chance.
Yeah. So. So I got that, and the reason why it's kind of silly is because I owned, from the same brand, Matrix, I had the 2x12 version, which is instead of 1x12, it was a 2x12, and it was 600 watts. And so to me, I'm like, well, when I went the modeling route, I was like, okay, cool. I still want stage volume, and I'm like, but what if a 1x12 300 watts isn't enough? And so I got a 6x12 and it was 2x12 600 watt, and it was way enough. Like, it was fucking loud.
It's huge.
And then Playing Without a Pilot ended, and I'm just sitting on this big ass fucking 2x12. I'm like, I'm not even playing now, and I'm like, this is kind of the idea, and why going the 2x12 was like felt safe is because you want it louder, where louder is more better. And more watts and more speakers. And then the whole point of going modeling was that you wanted your rig a little bit more compact, or a lot more compact.
Yeah.
And so I was playing a 1x12, tube amp. And so then to jump to a 2x12 with a power amp and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, this is probably not the best idea. Anyway, so I ended up like selling that, and then thinking and talking myself up that I should have gone with the smaller size. The FR12 is what it's called. I believe so. From Matrix. Okay, we can do this here. There we go. So it's this guy. It looks like a combo amp, right? It's like,
yep.
It's not like kind of I don't know, goofy looking. If that was on stage, you'd be like, okay, that's just like
it's the form factor you're expecting for a guitar. Yeah.
And then the back of it is pretty. No, it's not going to do that. This guy here. So it has just the input for the XLR, and then just an out to
Daisy
front of house.
chain.
Yeah, so it just goes out, and like it's just a pass through. So the XLR from the back of the amp.
Looks like that's a combo jack too. So
so if you wanted to go with the like HX Stomp, say if you have a 1/4 out, you could use that too. So it's a in the same I've already owned it, and I like the company and like the way they sound, and so now I have it again.
Right.
And so I got this, and it is so much lighter than it's half the weight of the 2x12, and I'm like, I got the tracking for it, and I was like, because I bought it off Reverb, like I said, and I looked at every day, refresh the UPS tracking, right, and then I'm looking, I'm like, this guy said it was 10 pounds. I'm like, this guy is probably sending me. I got bamboozled.
Sending you an
sack
empty
of flour.
And
yeah,
then
it's empty. It's just the wood.
And I'm like, maybe this, this guy, I'm all pissed off. Maybe this jackass thought he had the power one, or he listed it as that, but he's sending me the passive one, which, wouldn't have any of it's just the speaker. And I'm like getting all like, oh my, like, I'm gonna have to return it. I'm getting like freaking like, but his pictures show that it's the right one. I'm like, oh my God. And I open it up and I get the box and I pick it up. I'm like, this is way too fucking light.
Accidentally throw it across the room.
Well,
it's too light.
Where's my amp? And it's like this. I'm like, this doesn't feel, because I'm picking it up and like it's the size of an amp, right? And I'm like, this is not fuck. I'm like, God damn it! And then I open the thing and I'll get it, and I'm like, this is the right thing. And you could pick this thing up with one hand, like even like doing it like deltoid kind of or shrugs. You could. I'm like, wow.
Do all your little baby weight exercises.
You just need to get another one.
Yeah, I just need. So I get 2. But yeah, I'm super stoked on it. Played it the other day, and it is. We tell you, 300 watts is plenty loud enough. I would assume, because I had it just on like, like 1/4 of the way, not even halfway up. I'm like, boom! I'm like shaking the wall. I'm like, oh shit!
Yeah,
Let me turn this down. And
Dude, Class D amps.
Mhm.
That's the thing. That's that tech that makes it so light and small.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous the power that you can get, and it's so light, and the little heat they're just so damn efficient. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's exactly what's in the. It's like in the Darkglass stuff, like how they can make a 900 watt amp the size of like what are the Mac Studios.
It's like the size of 2 of their pedals.
Yeah,
and it's like a 900 watt amp, and it's all the same stuff, like switchable. Like there's like 3 versions of a very simple speaker emulation in it, in case you want to use that.
And I think you can also upload IRs too.
Can you? I didn't even mess with any of that shit. It's just amazing. I picked it up, and it was just like that. I was like, I'm told these are really light and powerful, and he's like, it's thunderous. Like plug it into a giant speaker. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then same thing. Darkglass makes like their own speakers that kind of go with that amp, and same thing. They're small and powerful as hell. So it's I think
when I was a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because it's hard to just jump away from any stage volume because it is still like that little security that you'd have, especially like playing bass. We were doing that in playing. Like Kyle was, sometimes we'd play gigs and he'd use my little terror bass combo because we're playing a bar and maybe we have 25 minutes and it's like a beer fest thing. It's like play here and it's gonna be we're gonna go DI anyways. And it's like fuck it. Do we really want to like roll through this like club that's not really meant for this type of festival thing? Rolling through people with like a 4x12 even.
Is that going to get the kind of attention you want?
Take the 410 like 3 blocks down the road because that was the closest place you could find parking downtown. No,
for the 25 minutes that we're gonna play, I'm like, no, it's not gonna be worth it. So bring in a little combo amp just for some stage shaking, and then going DI anyways. So front of house is getting some good sound, or whoever's in the crowd is gonna get the good sound, and on stage I'm like, yeah, this is fine. And then pumping through monitors. But if like you didn't have that, I know some people who are just going straight. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll just leave it to chance that the venues
can handle
sound engineer is going to be able to handle that, and you can get your monitor mixed the way that you want. I don't know. My band members, in just in case, are definitely a lot more like forward leaning into doing that. But yeah, you can just we're doing in-ears now, so you don't even really need to bring a guitar amp. I'm like, oh, this venue also has like DI. You can just DI your bass. You don't even need to bring an amp. I'm like, I don't know if I trust this beach bar that we're playing at that they're gonna have the best sound, and that you tell them like, oh, we're running in-ear monitors. We need a good mix. Then he's gonna be like,
what's a good mix?
You fucking get whatever you want.
Yeah,
but
you want something turned up? Tell me.
Yeah, and then he's not gonna do a damn thing. Exactly. It's like, oh, anything, bro. And
I'm doing it, and just makes the motion like, or
just goes,
He's like,
got it.
He just does like this computer stuff, and then he's like, we're good. I'm like, there's no there's no keyboard on there. He's like, yep.
Just waves his fingers.
He's like, I did it. We're good. But yeah, so I'm happy with this thing. It was a silly buy. I think the initial 2x12 was a silly buy because I should have got the 300 watt 1x12 in the first place. But I'm happy with it, and
should have kept that one. Now you'd have like a super rad setup still.
I could do a stereo.
Rig.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You need your dry in the 212, and then the 112's your wet. You put it over on the other side of the stage. Maybe it's side firing across the stage.
Yeah.
Just
across the bassist knees.
An immersive environment of music.
Just making it so complicated. So I'm definitely putting the cart before the horse because I don't even have music. So I'm creating a rig. Like, so I'm like, this could be useful. It's like you like just picking up amps like it's an RBG. Like this could prove to be useful later. We'll save it for later. Then you put it. But I did. I think he was on your show, Rhett Shull. Kind of like he was kind of touring with the Helix floor unit, so like the bigger boy, and Line 6 gave him the power cabs, so he had 2 power cabs, and he was like, "Oh, I'm able to run my stereo sound or whatever with this." And then he kind of, like, I think in a video, maybe a Q&A or whatever, talking about, like, stereo rigs really aren't what they, for live, it's like, you get nothing out of it. It's like,
Right.
It makes it more complicated.
You're closer to, I mean, there's like one person in that room that's getting the proper stereo effect, right?
Yeah.
You know?
But their face is just melting. They're just
They're
like,
like, it's so beautiful. And everybody else is like, it's weird. It keeps thumping and wobbling and then disappearing. And you're like, that's my auto pan trem. It's glorious. And you just can't hear it.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah. So like, it's more gear. It's more of a pain in the ass for the sound engineer. He's like, don't do it. It's like telling kids, don't do drugs. Don't do stereo rigs. Yeah. So to me, I'm like, okay, cool. I could get another one of those because it has like a little spot for like stacking another cab on top of it. And I'm like, no. And I thought
the whole
second,
point of it though, right? It's like sort of, it's sort of the opposite of that. Why would I get this if I then also just, well, then again, they're 10 pounds. I don't know. I keep coming back to it. 10 pounds.
You need like
Stack
8
4
of them.
You could still carry that down the street.
Like he listed it and like shipped it as 10 pounds, but if you look on the website, it says 29. So maybe
He stripped himself off.
Yeah, he's just lying. He's like, yeah, it's only 10 pounds. So fuck it. And then UPS is like gonna be like, we gotta check this. No, they're just gonna Ace Ventura that thing anyways. Sounds broken. Could be.
Could be.
Anyway, so that's my what's new. I'm having an amp that I already kind of owned, and I'm liking it. So, we brought Justin on here. Not to just chat about my.
It's just because you felt guilty.
Yeah, it's like we got to get him on here. But we
were losing sleep over it.
Wanted to pick his brain a little bit, for lack of a better phrase there, about just different, I don't know, mixing, questions, recording questions, stuff like that. So, partially because the last time we were on your show, I'm like, I have a whole like random document, like note sections, not a document, of just like dumb questions.
Dossier.
Yeah. So, and we kind of were after hours on your show. We're kind of like, what about this? And you started like, wait, save it for the podcast.
Save it, right?
It's like we could talk about
it. Shut up. No.
So,
absolutely.
Okay, these are all just going to be going off of it, and if Kyle jump in with any,
you don't have to keep prefacing that they're dumb questions.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, because they know that already. Going to be. Maybe I should. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, here I'll start with a really dumb one I sent to Kyle, and I'm like, okay. So, and this is actually the note that I wrote down. The fuck does a de-esser do? I never hear a difference when I put one on. Am I stupid?
Are you saying S's into them when you put it on, or are you just putting on stuff that has no S's?
I put it on the podcast. And then, because I always hear people that use it, and it's like, am I using it wrong? I'm fucking asking you a question. That's
literally what he said.
That's what you wrote down.
It's probably just me like talking into my phone. I'm like, okay, I got this idea. I'm like, all right, Justin, listen to me. I'm asking. So,
what the fuck is a de-esser?
Does it actually make a difference? Would you use it mainly more for singing?
So all as with most things, you use it when you hear something that needs it. It's not like you always have to have it. Actually, that flies around all the time on like Twitch and stuff too, because there's all these tutorials, people going on Twitch and they're suddenly using a microphone. I have to have the best. I'm going to get myself this great mic. What do I do? Tell me my signal chain. So you don't have to use a de-esser. That's one of those like tell you your signal chain sorts of things, but it just makes the S's less harsh is the whole idea, right? So if you have something and it's very sibilant, T's, S's, all those sorts of things, and they're hurting your ear, because there's a lot of that a lot of those go on in high frequency ranges, 5, 6, 7, 8K, that are really going to be knives in your ears if they're too loud.
Gotcha.
But sometimes you really need those frequencies to be there. You can't just EQ them all out because you lose a lot of clarity. So the de-esser is just about keeping them under control. What it's actually doing, it is frequency dependent compression.
Gotcha.
So there's a few ways, like different de-essers might work a little differently. I like some that are switchable in this way, but you could have it so they're just compressing the high frequencies, or you could have it that they're compressing everything, but they're only listening to the high frequencies. So and that would be the sidechain filter. So the sidechain just means whatever the compressor's listening to. So essentially, if you just tell the compressor only listen to from like 5 kilohertz up, everything else is rolled off. That's what you're hearing, but that's not the audio you're compressing. That's typically the way I'll run a de-esser, right? So it'll be something around 5K and up, and it's here. That's just the triggering signal. Whenever my 5K or higher gets louder than whatever threshold I set, then it's going to compress my whole signal, and they're super fast. We're not dealing with like attack and release and stuff like that, because you need them to just clamp down on that. So why do you need it? If your microphone's too sibilant, you're never ever going to get that with your SM7s, right? Because that's not a bright mic.
Yeah.
It's really pretty balanced already, but if anything, it's on the dark side. So you strap one on with whatever default settings are there, you're probably never going to hear it, but you also aren't dealing with a bunch of sibilant stuff because your microphone's taming that to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
And I wonder if, because when I record vocals, I'm also using like a pop filter too. And I wonder if that's kind of getting some of the breaths and stuff.
That could change things.
But I'm using it with the SM7, so I'm like,
right. So yeah, again, like the SM7 is just not one where you're going to get it. Now, I'll tell you, like if I'm dialogue is kind of a different animal, and I am not usually going crazy with the high end on that, just enough to get clarity. Although I do end up putting a de-esser on a lot of people when they're not using a mic like that, right? So there's it's the Blue Yeti.
Yeah.
When people recording their podcast with a condenser like that has a lot more high-end sensitivity. So there often we might need a de-esser. Vocals in music, I'm often boosting a lot of highs. So if it's like a smooth, airy kind of pop music vocal, I'm probably adding a lot of high end, maybe like a lot of 10K, because I'm getting that breath sound. I want it to sound like the singer's inside my head kind of thing. And then I really need that de-esser because I'm adding all that, and I need the loud peaks in their signal to get tamped down. So I'm essentially like shoving their high end into a limiter.
Gotcha.
And my de-esser is that limiter, right? And the same way for like aggressive rock music or something. Maybe I'm boosting a lot of like upper mids and highs. Maybe I put kind of a wide de-esser on it because, again, I want those highs to be right there punching you in the face so that they get out over the drums and the guitars. And then I'm controlling them. That de-esser is like, here's my ceiling. There's the high end. There's the point where the high end starts to hurt. I pull it right to there, and I'm going to give you all that energy in the high end and keep it under control with a de-esser.
Yeah, I think maybe I just have like I have whatever stock one is in Pro Tools, and then I like put it on. Sometimes I hear I do the bypass whatever, and I'm like, I hear no fucking different. I even try fucking with it a bunch of times. I'm like, no, I don't hear anything. And then I have a buddy who does he started a podcast shortly after we did, and he was asking about like what plugins I use, and I'm like, what about de-esser? And I'm like, I honestly don't use one because I don't know what the fuck it's doing. But try it. And honestly, like that's what I do. I do a gate compressor, and then I do a 7-band EQ on all the vocals. So
in your podcast or in music?
Yeah, for the podcast vocals.
Yeah.
And then it just goes to a master, and I throw just like Maxim on it. And then
so I mean there's visual feedback on those plugins too, so you can see like unless that needle's doing that dip, it's not triggering in that point. So there literally is no difference unless you see that, like in Pro Tools, that it has sort of an orange triangle that kind of sweeps down. I think the Pro Tools one is going to default to being multiband. In other words, when your S's get loud, it actually only ducks the S's, not the whole signal.
Yeah.
Which is fine for some things. It's sort of a either or. But what happens is if you're de-essing, if you're needing to de-ess a lot, like if you have a super sibilant vocal and you put a lot of that on, it'll start to sound like people are lisping if you're just ducking the highs. So tends to be safer to do so it's a wide band compression, but only the detector is listening to the high end.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that follow? So it's compressing my entire voice when I do an S, not just my highs when I do an S. Sometimes you get away with the other one, but anytime you have to do it where it's significant, it's more than a couple of dBs of reduction, you get that because that's what it's doing. It's getting rid of the highs, but the rest of my like mid range is still coming through bright and loud, and then it sounds like I'm lisping.
Yeah.
Everyone's speaking Castilian Spanish up in here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that was, at least helpful for me.
That's not a dumb question. It's just phrased in a dumb way.
Yeah. So maybe exactly. You don't have to pull your punches. You'd be like, Brian, that's fucking stupid. Just
No
dunk
way.
on me from half court. But okay, so one of the reasons why I wanted to just ask Justin a bunch of questions is because I know a lot of our listeners are recording their own music, and then possibly even just like, okay, I can put it out in so many ways, like for a wide audience or for people to listen to, free ways like Bandcamp or even on YouTube. You can even put it on like SoundCloud and stuff like that, and just like, oh, here's my music. And it's like the barrier to entry was like, got to get CDs pressed. You got to fucking put it on, go to CD Baby or whatever, pay like a couple $100 or whatever to get it on iTunes and stuff. And now iTunes and Spotify is great, but you can always just send people like download Bandcamp and you can listen to it. And
Right.
like, okay, cool. So, asking all these kind of like, maybe, people are recording their own songs. I mean, okay, so what's some good tips here? So, let's say if somebody was...
You should try to record them so they sound good.
Yeah, record them goodly, and then do write good songs.
Use the de-esser. Make sure you do that.
Yeah, so there's a de-esser. Use it if you think it does anything, and then. So let's say if somebody, because I know I think you do this a lot, where you're mixing other people's tracks that they've recorded, so you've had no hands in doing this, right?
Yeah. I get a mix. I do so much stuff for background. Like my work ends up being about 50% music and 50% other kinds of things, such as I have a lot of regular podcasts clients. I do audiobooks and other such things. A few days a year, I get called out to swing boom on a video shoot even. So
Nice.
I have people record here. I sometimes go places to record. And then a lot of times, like you're saying, I get things that were recorded remote and I'm just mixing or mastering or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's say if somebody was like recording on their own, they kind of feel like, okay, I know, I have my, Focusrite or whatever, and then I have a DAW that I'm comfortable with, and then I'm just going to start recording music because, like maybe first and foremost, they're, singer-songwriter. I'm like, I got these ideas and just want to get them out. And then they don't want like a shitty product, right? End result. And so what are some tips that maybe the people recording their own music, you'd want to see in their tracks and waveforms? Like,
So this is if I'm getting the tracks to mix.
it's like, say I recorded my whole song,
Yeah.
and then I just send it to you, the raw files or whatever, to mix.
Yeah.
What would you like? I hope Brian did this.
Yeah.
I hope Brian Brian didn't do this.
Yeah.
Didn't do this.
That
Right.
might be a good way too.
I always check before. So before I take like before I
you froze a
agree
little
to
bit.
do a project, I'll be like, I have to actually have heard your tracks.
Gotcha.
And not just like I say to people when they contact me, like, show me where I can hear your music. And maybe that means something they've recorded before. But like if we're talking about a specific song, then I'm going to say, yeah, show me the tracks of that song so I can literally check them out. What am I looking for? Well, obviously we don't want any of them to be clipping.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, on a lot of different on some sounds, that's actually not a big deal. So there's plenty of times where it could be clipping and I really wouldn't complain about it very much. But that's one of the obvious ones, right, that you're going to see right away. Like,
do you have like
Yeah.
a hard number? Like I always, somebody told me like -18 is probably the lowest you want to go. -6 is definitely the top you want to go. So I just split the difference and say -12, and they're like, that's fine.
yeah, I mean, those are perfectly fine. Where it gets complicated is actually like that. Those numbers are you looking at the average or the peak, right? And so you can have something that's averaging -18 easily that still clips, depending on what kind of sound it is, right?
I think I look at the clipping. I'm like, okay,
Right. So
like
if you're
average-
seeing the peak value, the peak level, I try to explain it like this, like, because there's all these different DAWs. Usually, sometimes there's numbers, but there's usually a color break too. And so whatever's red at the end of it, that's usually 3 dB or -3.
Yeah.
And so I kind of say like, red, we never want to see.
yeah,
If you're in the yellow, you want to just be kissing the yellow. And that's often, depending on the DAW, the yellow could start at -12. It could start at -6.
red is dead, Yellow, let it mellow.
And so if somebody's like, this is most common for me, honestly, is people are going to start a podcast. And how do I figure out how to record my voice? When a speaking voice, I'm like, sure, aim to be hovering around that -18 zone. That's a good place to be. But if you see yourself peak above -6, I usually say, or I say basically, if you see yellow, it's safe to turn it down a little bit. That's for spoken dialogue. For music, I would kind of handle it a little differently. I would say go ahead and you can air a little bit higher because, like I said, for a lot of music, a little bit of digital clipping, you either can't hear it or it doesn't matter, and it might even sound good, especially if it's a loud vocal. It's surprising actually how little you can hear a bit of digital clipping, especially these days with you saying like Focusrite. These little $100 interfaces, they have amazing electronics in them compared to what was around 10 years ago. So, but I don't know. I'm less and less worried about it, I guess, is where I'm coming down on this, because on the other hand, the good preamp also means that it doesn't have a lot of self noise. So you're not needing to jack up that level as loud as you possibly can. Like if you record a little quiet, it's not a big deal. We can turn it up in post.
Yeah.
So, what I look for, I really don't want things to be clipping too much. Hopefully not at all. But actually probably more important than that is just the way things are edited. I really don't want to see, edits that weren't crossfaded. So if you're doing things that involve comping multiple takes, you can do that, but you got to put little crossfades on there, because a lot of times we're printing tracks out. Like if it's not the actual, like if somebody sends me a Pro Tools session, I can open that. Somebody sends me a Reaper session, I can open that. But usually they're not, right?
Yeah.
Most people, if it's somebody out there, they're going to have found Logic Pro is still is like kind of the most common that I run into. People, what do? You get a Mac and then you start recording, right? And you outgo GarageBand, you get yourself some Logic Pro. But there's plenty of others. Any DAW is totally valid. I mean, it's whatever fits with what you're doing. So I'm going to probably get, wave files from you, not a DAW session. So I can't fix those edits if they're wrong. And then of course I actually can fix them, because then I have other stuff. I have Isotope RX, which can do magical black, audio black magic to stuff like fix clipping, which is impossible. Fix those, it's called a discontinuity error, right? Like if I make an edit and I don't crossfade it, the waveform is like on a curve, and then all of a sudden it just jumps instantly to a different spot. Yeah. And that your ear hears as a snap, and it's super obvious. But Isotope can just fix that. Now, I don't want to fix it. I'd rather you just did it right to begin with, but there's just so much I can fix now. It's kind of ridiculous. But I will bill you for it.
Yeah.
So do it right.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I guess if people are unfamiliar, it's like the crossfading it. So it's taking two like different wave files, and then basically you're putting like the, I know in Pro Tools, that crossfade.
You can grab it by the corner, and it's really easy in Pro Tools. It's usually easy. Most things you can sort of grab the file by the edge, and you'll get this little X icon. Then that'll mean crossfade. GarageBand is literally the only one that can't do it. Yeah.
I think, I know with the Pro Tools kind of going in it, it's like you can zoom. I don't know. This is to me. I'm a crossfade expert. I'm like going zooming.
Enhance.
Yeah, it's zooming in so much to where I'm like, I'm seeing the single line that it's like this. Yeah. I'm like, when I find that they're both matched up, I'm like, that's right, crossfade. Like, boom.
And you don't need to go in with that detail.
I'm like, look at this, dude. I'm so good. And then I just get, Brian Rash. He's the one who mixed Justin Case's EP. Roll with the Punches. Check it out. I think he did a great job. And he's like, Brian, you did a good job, editing. So basically, I edited all the waveforms that I recorded here, which is vocals, guitars, and shit like that. And then I even kind of chopped up his, cleaned up his drums. But I was like, okay, I'm going to let Brian do that because he's the drummer. And then, but like, oh yeah, all the other stuff, like, bass and guitar and all that stuff worked out. Because sometimes there was one song I had punched in so many fucking times. It looked like it went through, this is the one I always say, it looks like it went through a fucking paper shredder. It was like, you look at it, it's like
it's all in 8-note slices.
I'm like, man, that was a tough fucking song. It was like, it just had like a 6/8 notes pause, and then it goes into like an 8th note and I'm like, to get that matched up right, I'm like, man, I kept fucking, I'm like, what I can do is just slide things over. and the beauty with
I
Pro
do that
Tools.
almost every session.
And so
Truly.
I edited mine. Adam played it pretty well. Brian played it pretty well. But to me, I'm like, yeah, Brian, you're gonna have, I did a good job editing, I think. And he looked at it like, wow, yep, there's a lot of punch-ins on that song. But it turned out okay. So I would say, just from what you just said, I'm like, okay, that validates having a good edit to give it to you, right?
Yeah. You don't have to zoom in like that though. Don't put yourself through that. Like you can do your edits, and there are certain times where I want to do the fade right away because I want to hear it. I want to make sure it was okay. But for the most part, you can do edits, and visually, like if you're editing, you're probably editing like near transients, right? You can tell where the notes are happening. You're listening to them. So you're editing, where the attack of that bass note is.
Yeah.
And you could line them all up. You do all that stuff, get to the end, highlight the entire thing, Command F, and it'll do a batch fade. And you can just tell it 5 milliseconds. Just do 5 millisecond equal power crossfades. They're done. And you've just done, 160 crossfades in 1 second. So just don't put yourself through that. That's all I'm saying. Batch fade at the end, 5 milliseconds. Like seriously, it's not going to change the sound of the music. 5 milliseconds.
We had no idea you were living your life like that, Brian.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I apologize.
I should try that.
Putting you through
I should
hell.
definitely try that. I'm learning all these little just like key commands and stuff like that. But definitely one thing that a friend told us when we were recording, when we were youngsters, I do I do like to keep more of the human element into things. So like a lot of breaths, like you go, and then you start singing. I'm like, I love keeping those in.
It's only breaths.
Yeah. And even mouth noises.
You need you need that to be a function in the DAW where everything you push, you need a keystroke. It deletes, but it actually is just pushing it off into a different part of the session. And at the end, you're left with all the clips that you cut.
Just a compilation of just mouth noise. The ASMR button.
Yeah.
But it's like
there's a whole genre of videos on YouTube like that. I love them. I love those. It's like they take the from like was it
like a commercial or something?
Commercial, yeah, and they just take
political speeches I've seen too. Yeah. Only
Dude's
the parts
super
that aren't
enthusiastic.
words.
Oh man!
So there was one years ago, that exact thing, and it was when Arnold Schwarzenegger was still in office in California, and so of course he's like the king. So Arnold Schwarzenegger's speech, but only the stuff that isn't words, and things like for like 4 minutes. It was so long.
Like there was that much of him just making noise.
So long.
Dang.
That's pretty good.
Okay.
That's fucking stupid.
So dumb.
Well, we were talking about crossfading. Reason if you punch in over like a track, like not like a fresh spot, it will actually do the crossfade for you.
Auto crossfade, yeah.
Yeah. So
I think they'll all do that. I know Pro Tools and Reaper will do that. Those are the two that I'm using most right now.
Yeah.
At least from my experience. And
but if you're editing, you might have to. That's probably a different setting. But it can probably do it also if you're editing. I still kind of like to do them at the end, just because I don't know. Pro Tools, well, Reaper a little bit too. They're a little irritating. Like if you have a crossfade and then you're trying to do other things with the edit, there's certain things that get more difficult if there's already a crossfade there, and that bothers me. So I'll just edit them like totally dry and then do it at the end. But auto crossfade, yeah. I would love if it would auto crossfade and then continually readjust them. So like then if I go move one of those clips, I'm not going to stretch my crossfade. It'll actually just redo it in 5 milliseconds at the new spot or something.
Yeah.
Or I could just keep doing it my old way like an old man. So that's what I'll probably do.
Do like Brian with a magnifying glass.
I'm doing it like how I learned in 2008. I'm still doing it. I'm like, this is great.
With whiteout and magnifying glass.
Yeah, taking notes.
Okay, so anyway, you like to leave in the stuff, the Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff in your songs. Go on.
a lot of that, but I mean, so I think only recently, probably in the past, like how recent is recent, but in the past like maybe 2 years, I'm starting to like trying to mix my own music. And I know Kyle is too. He's doing a couple different types of projects where he's doing like a rock band type of song, and then he's doing retrowave.
Yeah.
Okay. Where it's more synth based and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
I was going to ask, is that a kind of electronic music, Kyle?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
EDM. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it EDM music?
You can dance to it, I guess, but it's not real. Like when people say EDM, I'm like, yeah, I guess it's
you can
electronic.
dance to it if you want to. You can leave your friends behind.
I knew he was going to say that.
You're like, Justin, you're like, God damn it.
How do I stop
This
my
is coming
video
and I
feed
can't
on
stop
this?
it.
Yeah. So, and then I'm kind of doing that with the demos that I do for the YouTube channel, but also I want to do it for my own music.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get better at mixing, but I kind of didn't know where to start. So essentially what I would always do up until like almost 2 years ago, I would record everything. And like I said, I'd, be a master editor, right? Getting really zoomed in.
Yeah.
And I'd give the engineer basically the whole Pro Tools session, because he was on Pro Tools. I'm like, here's my fucking drive. All right. And then the guy would just do all the work. So essentially what I thought it was is like mixing was just like getting the tracks leveled and panned. That was
That's it. No de-essers or anything.
And then now I'm finding out, I'm like, okay, so and I'm sure this is like a question that you're like, okay, well, it depends on what it is. I'm like, okay, does everything need a fucking compressor and EQ? And I know there's a lot of people like, I have this giant board. Look at all these EQs I have. And I'm like, oh, this EQ has a real flavor to it. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, this compressor is a really good flavor to add to the mix. Just a kiss of that. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And so
probably means the amp that's in it, but yeah.
And so essentially I'm like, okay, so if somebody was like going to have their own, track to mix and master or whatever, or mixing or whatever that they're trying to do, I'm like, do you have to have a compressor on every fucking track? Do you have to have EQ on every track? Or can it just sound good from the get-go and you just level it? Like everything
that's ideal. That's ideal. And the most important part of the mix should be considered the levels. So it should be the faders.
Okay.
And I mean like even more important than the panning, although the panning is super important. So it's like mixing includes anything that you would do, like definitionally, anything that you would do to make the song sound like you want it to. So if you record something and then you have to edit it, I mean, I include that. Like if I give somebody a quote for mixing, I am listening to their song, listening to their tracks, their rough mix, hopefully. And then I'm saying, okay, in order to get this where I know they want it and I will be happy with it, this is what it'll cost. And I'm including, I hear that I'm going to have to pitch correct parts of this. I hear that there's some timing I'm going to edit.
Yeah.
And then all the other stuff. And I do kind of separate those because it's a little hard to be in a creative frame of mind as far as the levels when you're having to deal with stuff like rhythm editing and things like that. So I will often separate them by a day. I'll do part of the process and then I'll hang it up so that I come back. And by the time I'm trying to set the levels, I'll come back with fresh ears. But the most important thing should be the faders. And in an ideal world, and this kind of goes back to like the early days before they had mixing consoles, right? They were actually just trying to make it sound right in the room, push record on their one microphone. And then they started adding more microphones, and then they had to make machines that could record more track, blah, blah, blah. So, if you can record something exactly the way you want it to sound in the end, that's right. You're done. The trick is knowing how you want that to sound. And that comes just from experience, because the first time if you're listening to music that's finished mix, it's hard to discern exactly what those instruments would sound like in solo by themselves. And it's usually way different than you're expecting. I remember this from when I was a kid, and like, I think everybody kind of goes through this. If you listen to like hard rock music when you're a kid, you think that guitars have a ton of low frequencies in them, but you're hearing guitar and bass mixed.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And the bass is a thunderous bass is 60% of the guitar sound that you thought you heard. So then you go record a guitar the first time and you scoop your guitar way out, you crank up the bass and the highs, and you record this thing and it sounds like ear knives that are standing on your chest. And you're like, why doesn't my stuff sound? So you have to do it kind of a few times, and eventually you start to kind of figure it out. But you get to the point where, what you're recording sounds closer and closer to the way it's supposed to be in the final, then you do less and less with the EQs and stuff like that. Does everything need an EQ? No, but they usually get some. It doesn't have to have it, but it usually gets some. And I do get that feeling from if you're mixing in a console, which I don't think a lot of people really are nowadays, but there's even softwares that are kind of made this way, like Harrison Mixbus, which is really designed to feel like a console, and everything's already got that whole channel layout. You got your EQ, you got your things just the way it would be.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of makes me reach for it sometimes when I wouldn't maybe otherwise.
Yeah, because it's there. So yeah, fuck it, might as well.
I'm supposed to tweak this, right?
Yeah.
I think that's how people feel, and
they wouldn't put the knobs there if you didn't have
right.
to just like, what was it?
And maybe that's okay.
Just
maybe
crank
that's okay.
it all the way up. I'm like, yeah,
exactly.
More
Give me all the
EQ and more
highs.
gain is better.
I found that I just kept turning this up, and then I really liked how it sounded, but it was a little harsh. So then I kept turning up the de-esser, but then the highs weren't there like I wanted to be, so I kept turning the highs back up, and then I had to crank the de-esser back up.
Yeah.
It's endless until you've just got this hiss.
Yeah.
It's just holding steady. Yeah, so I think I would love for everybody to just be hearing something and actually say, oh, there's a little bit too much of this in there. Let me reach for an EQ now. And that's where I think plugins are a little bit advantageous, because you don't just have it necessarily in the channel already. And so it's like, maybe I need to instantiate that EQ in this channel, right? I'm going to actually open a plugin and start doing something with it.
Yeah.
It's a little deliberate,
Mm-hmm.
but usually, yeah, everything has friggin' compression on it. This
Yeah,
is like,
okay.
most of what I'm doing is dynamics management. Because there's
Gotcha.
also like what you hear in the real world is super dynamic compared to anything you hear on a finished record. Is such a more narrow dynamic range.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're used to. That's what your ear's expecting when you listen to music.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this before on the podcast, like watching like some YouTubers and stuff like that. And then they're like, this is my mix. I'm like, how do you have fucking 10 plugins on every track? And then I'm like, that's not what they're doing. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe they're like more, it could just be that like, well, I have the power to do so, and I have the, I have the plugin, might as well use it. And it's like, I paid for these fucking like the pro EQs and stuff like that, and UADs, I'm gonna use them. I'm like, okay. So I mean, I'm sure it goes, both ways. Like like you said, you're given something that you didn't record, so I'm like, okay, I need to fix it to get it to sound a way that I want, that I know the client wants. But,
yeah.
You had mentioned a lot of plugins. Are you working mainly in the box on your DAW?
Yeah, so I have a UAD rig, which helps with that, because there are plugins that can run on the inputs, because those are happening in the DSP on this machine, so they're happening before the computer.
And your UAD works with Zoom.
Yeah. Oh,
Mine
that's
doesn't.
why you asked me if you were hearing my laptop mic. Yeah, because mine just works with Zoom and yours
God
doesn't.
damn
I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that.
I'll have to figure out why.
I don't know if I can fix it, though, because I never had an
Let's
issue.
not talk about that, please.
But anyways,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I still haven't fixed it, but I'm using the Focusrite. anyways. So mainly in the box, right?
Mainly in the box, yeah. And I do decorate things on the way in, so to speak, with the UAD plugin. So I will do some EQ and I will use their channel strip, and I'll usually throw an 1176 on every vocal that I do. It's going to have something kind of coming in, because I also think that helps, especially with singers. Hearing compression on the way in really helps you perform closer to what you want the final to be.
Okay,
That makes sense, right? And I'm trying hard not to overcook it, because I want to have some flexibility later, but there is something to be said about committing, because commit to a sound if you're confident about it, and you get more and more confident about it the more you do it.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to have one of those mixes where there's 10 plugins on a channel, because you can go too far. And I think use that advice to that, use the bypass button. If you build up really for any effect, especially when you're learning, and let's be clear, we're always learning. But
Yep.
If you set something up, I really try to remember to do this. I'm sure I forget sometimes, but anytime I do any effect, I set it, I listen, I mess with it for a while, I get it to where I think it's good, and then I bypass it.
Okay.
And so that makes, I'm checking, like, did I actually make this better? And I'm remembering, what did it sound like before? Because your ears acclimate super fast. So you constantly have to reference things in order to keep yourself in check. And so I bypass it. Maybe it doesn't sound as good. That one thing that you'll need to check, though, is you will be fooled if it's louder. So whenever I'm doing processing, I want to adjust that plugin so that it's not changing the perceived loudness, or if I can help it. Sometimes it's really tough, but yeah, if I do an EQ, I really want it to still be basically the same loudness when I'm done, and then I can objectively say, oh, I didn't really improve anything with this. Back to square one, or maybe I reverse the change. So
yeah, because you hear it louder. I'm like, oh, that sounds more like professional. It sounds better, you know?
Yeah. Like our ears, we're evolved to hear louder things are more important.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. And then, do you have any outboard gear actually, or like, are you using any outboard compressors, EQs, and stuff, or is it mainly
just preamps? I have some outboard preamps, so I have some Golden Age pre 73s.
Okay.
And I have this preamp that's from DIY recording equipment. I don't know if you've heard of that, but anyway, they make a lot of DIY kits for things. But anyway, they made this system called the Color platform, which is like basically a processing unit that you install these little dirt boxes into. And people expanded on it. They started making things that weren't just dirt boxes, stuff that was like weird delays and other stuff like that. But anyway, I got a preamp that is essentially a super clean preamp, and then it's got one little spot where you can install one of these dirt boxes in it. The one that I put in has a tiny little tube. It's this tube from the size was used in like walkie-talkies before transistors.
Oh,
it was
wow.
like that kind of thing. So this little bitty actual tube in this thing, and basically I have a preamp, a mic preamp that's just clean, and then it has this knob on it, and the knob is a gain compensated mix knob for the tube. So I put this in and it drives the tube, but it rolls the gain off so the volume stays the same, exactly like I just said you should do. And it's fantastic. But anyway, so yeah, I've got nothing as far as recording gear outboard. Because I'm trying to be small here. I have a laptop and I take it places sometimes. So I have a 6U rack case that I pack in my car when I go places. It's got my Apollo preamps, and that's it.
Yeah, that's always one thing you see, or I see when I look at like either studios that friends' bands have go to, studios that we've been to, and then watching on YouTube studio tours and stuff like that. I see like the fucking tons of gear. I'm like, is there any of that necessary? Which if you're doing it at a home recording demo level, it's not necessary. If you're doing it at a professional level like Justin, still not necessary. It's right. It's like, I mean,
there's things that I would love to have because it's wicked cool, but that is kind of the end of it. And this room is in my house. Well, it's attached to my house. We had this house built a few years ago, and this room was added to the blueprint. So I'm separated enough from my family, but I'm running on the same power and HVAC. All that equipment takes power. All that equipment produces heat in the summer. It's good in the winter. And everything that I buy, I have to justify, right? It has to be something that's actually going to help my business make money at the end of the year. Yeah. So I would love to have one of those Rupert Neve like channel strips with his preamp, you know what I mean? The like $4,000 thing. But like, is that gonna $4,000 change the sound of everything I record after that?
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, no. Like, I have decent preamps, but they're much less expensive than that. And the difference between those and that is not, 4,000% or whatever, you know? So I do kind of think about it that way. And my gear lust fell off a lot when I started actually like keeping the books on my own business, right? Because it's like, there's so much stuff that I could want, but it's like, do I really need that microphone? Is that really going to change anything? So I end up being really kind of lean in that sense. Now, I don't have like a dedicated, like if I had a dedicated studio facility that had room for all that stuff, maybe that'd be a little bit different, but I don't know. In these days, like especially with this past year with all the lockdowns and stuff, there's a bunch of studios and recordists in my area, and I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, that struggled and went out of business. And I got calls from a lot of people that were like, I've been looking and everybody I call is closed. And my business increased at the beginning of of COVID. And a bunch of stuff went online that used to be in person, but I did end up doing sessions online and stuff like that. And I think my overhead is just low enough that I was I was able to hunker down here and it was okay. So there's a lot that's going to take me to, it would take a lot for me to change my mind and suddenly decide that I need a console or something like that.
Yeah.
Especially after going through this. So,
and like, yeah, the overhead and also like the space, like you said, it's like to have, even to do like have a drum room and stuff like that. It's like, okay, now that's another fucking room and isolation and stuff like that.
Right.
And then
I know a great drum room that I rent occasionally.
Yeah. And it's all like,
right.
Some of those, like having the gear or the gear like racks and shit like that, sometimes it's just client getters. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then we're actually not going to record through those, but just going to be like, this looks good, right?
Yeah. You think, speaking of like 10 plugins on a channel, every one of those things in that rack can only be used by one electrical signal can go through that at a time.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're going to use that on your mix, that means you're literally going to like solo a track, run it through my hardware compressor, and then go to the next one. You know what I mean?
Then print it, yeah.
Right. Print it back into the DAW. Or it's cool when you're recording. But my UAD, this thing sounds so good. Like, I know it's modeling and it's not like the real thing, but it's like really close. You do have to kind of change the way you approach it a little bit from a gain staging perspective, but UAD helps a lot with that too. Like, if you've noticed on your Apollo, like when you turn on the one of the unison preamps that's like modeling preamp, the volume, the level kind of goes down a little bit, right? Because they're actually intentionally, they're backing off the gain staging so that they can do all this analog modeled drive and not be overhead rimming. When I compare that to like my hardware preamps that are fed into line ins on my Apollo, those, I can hit those too loud. You cannot clip a unison preamp. You can drive the preamp into distortion, but you cannot clip Pro Tools from an Apollo unison preamp because they've just gain staged it correctly. It just won't happen.
Yeah, I'll have to mess around with that more. I have like the API channel strip in UAD. And I was using
what I'm
that
talking to you through right now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's bloody brilliant.
And but for recording vocals for like a song, because it's most of the time it's not me recording. It'd be like, oh, I have Brian or Kyle or Adam or whatever. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable enough in my settings that I print through that to be like, okay, like, oh yeah, no worries, Kyle, you did a good job. And I'm like, I fucked up the whole track. I'm like, he's gone already. He's in Texas. I'm like, thumbs up. Like,
so what you're saying is you're gonna leave the plugins off to make sure you don't do anything to it that you can't undo.
Exactly. I'll do it on the back end, like in the box, essentially.
Now you can do both with that UAD.
Yeah,
you can not with the unison, but you can. But I'll tell you, like, I don't always turn on those things on. Like with your unison preamps, like you don't have to turn on the gate. You know what I mean? You don't have to turn on the compressor if you don't want it. You can leave those off, and then you're not breaking anything, but you're getting some of that, just a little flavor. But I get that feeling. Like, to me now, I'm still like nervous sometimes when I am doing a vocal and I know it sounds awesome, but it's a little distorted.
Oh shit.
But I know it sounds awesome. But the thing is, like, that Adele record from a few years ago is so distorted. Her vocal on that is fuzzy as hell. Whatever that, I'm sure it was like a U47 tube mic or some shit that is so overloaded from her ridiculous volume. And it sounds brilliant, but would I have the nuts to actually record, to have, have a singer here and actually record distortion because they're so loud? Yeah. I hope so, but I don't know if I could. I get it, but I don't know.
But I don't know. I think I looked at, I'm like, oh, we're over, hour 15 here.
We've been recording a long time.
So one thing that you guys will find out right now, that the listeners will find out at the beginning, I forgot to record video for this.
Oh no. So are you going to be a blank square?
No,
screenshot it. Just
all
put
of
this
us.
up.
I didn't record the Zoom at all. So I will screenshot right now. So
I recorded video.
You know what? It would be great
if it's just
send me exactly.
I'll send you this video. You have 720p of just me.
And then I just edit like the cartoon versions of Kyle and I on each of your shoulders.
You could edit like a drawing in or something and just animate. Yeah.
I looked at it. I'm like,
I want to be the angel.
Yeah. I'm like, God damn it! I forgot to start recording the video. Anyway, whatever.
Whoops. Well, that's my fault then. I threw you off by, I can't remember whatever stupid thing I did at the beginning. I'm sure it was there though.
No.
Yeah, it's all your fault. Can't believe it.
Well, no, it was all my fault. I looked at it. I'm like, it was like, I think we were like an hour in. I looked at it like,
oops.
If there was video, you could see my face going, just sucking all the air through my nose. Like, anyways, Justin, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
No, thanks for having me.
I honestly learned a lot, and hopefully the listeners did too. Hopefully Kyle did too. Like, it's just like a lot of like
the whole time.
Shit. Okay, there's a lot more to mixing than than I knew even before we started recording today. So, but if people wanted to find out more about you and your podcast, your Twitch, where can they find out? What are the links?
The links. So the reason I'm here because of the Tone Control podcast is at tonecontrolshow.com, where my buddy Derek and I chit chat about nonsense and often guitars. And that's that link. My Twitch is twitch.tv/JNTracks. Mm-hmm. If you like video games and you want to watch VR gameplay from my eyes perspective, which probably makes people dizzy, that could be fun. But that's not guitar related at all. And I even do another podcast about a game about my space game that I play too. But that's of course a totally different, non-overlapping segment. That's how I roll.
Well, hit him up.
All right. Well, the other podcast is called Loose Screws. It's at loosescrewsed.com because we play the game Elite Dangerous, which is a space sim. And oh man, it gets rough. So those are. Oh, and you know what? I guess I call this studio J-Song Studio, Jay like the bird. So I have jsongstudio.com for that. And if you want to talk to a studio guy about doing something studio-ish, that's where to go. There's a bunch of samples of my work and crap like that.
Yeah.
So that's I have too many links.
No, it's good. So even if people are like are doing their own mixes, they could always hit you up and like, okay, you can do a mix for a song or something like that. And then so if they're doing all the right steps that you had mentioned before of non-clipping, getting your crossfades done correctly, and they have a song and be like, I'm not hitting the mix right, they could send it to you, and then with some a nominal fee there can get that out.
for sure. There's a just get in touch. There's buttons to get in touch with me. There's a quote request form on that page, but if you just want to ask me a question, by all means.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for. Yeah.
And yes, the mentioned before, but the Tone Control, they also have a Discord. Good. We'll link all that in the description. They're active over there. It's a lot of fun. I am not, but I figuring out Discord slowly but surely. All right. But I just want to thank you, the listener, for tuning into the Tone Jerks podcast. If you want to follow along on social media, you can at the Tone Jerks on Instagram. On Facebook, we have a Facebook group. Search the Tone Jerks, also linked in the description. You can join that group. It's it's wild over there. And then you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or give us a hopefully 5-star review on Spotify. And then, give us whatever stars you think we deserve.
5, please.
5, only 5. And if you really like the show, you can help support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. But if you double down for $2 a month, you get an extra episode every week. And you get an RSS feed to get that bonus podcast to your favorite podcatcher, and you get all the juicy stuff behind the paywall. It's I think we're over 220 bonus episodes, so it's completely different podcast on this one, so it's not like just like get the same one on a different feed. So over there on patreon.com/thetonejerks, and just for the support, we wanted to give you a huge shout out, a sizable acknowledgement. Kyle, you got a list over there?
I got it right here.
Why don't you give it to...
I have Andrew Walsh from Andrew's Alcove and the Second Button Podcast.
What up?
Which is Brian's podcast with Andrew on there. Doing
Seinfeld watch along over there.
All right. I thought I was reading.
Okay.
Cool.
Like Kyle's like,
yeah, this is my only chance. Okay. All right. It's a
Seinfeld
listen along, watch along podcast. We have Abe Newman, Michael Newman, Nicholas Payson, Nicholas Ogburn, Doug King, Doug Christ from 37 Effects, Masters of the Cinematic Universe, and also the Just Surprise Me podcast also.
That's right.
I don't know why I couldn't read that. Joe from Like My Pedals and the Just Surprise Me podcast, and also Masters of the Cinematic Universe. Those guys are hanging out. I saw they posted like their Disney World and stuff or whatever. Magic
I think they
Kingdom.
did a live IRL podcast.
Yeah.
So
that whole
Joe.
situation's just a big Venn diagram, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not done with it. We got Will Lehue from the Just Surprise Me podcast.
Oh, yeah.
We got Tony DeGraw from the Signal Path podcast. He moonlights on those other podcasts mentioned before.
Yeah. He's keeping the boys in line.
We have RJ Smith from Telly Talks and also Stream Talk Repeat. We have Jamie Davis, Johnny Ray, Howie Felter Snatch, Jason Fuzzmonger, Steve Ralph from 60 Cycle Hum, Kevin He Quits from He Quits Guitars.
That one got Justin. He's like, what the fuck?
Keep going.
Co Schneider from Night Tides, Alvaro Viramontes, Justin, we're not even done yet. Brian Nutter of Nutter Guitars, Mel Chibson of Chibson Guitars. We got Sean Arbo from Gun Street Wiring Shop. We got Sean Fahey from Shadow Hounds of the band. Sean Wright from Lollygagger Effects. Juan Ortiz from Tone Hungry Effects. We got Mike Oxbig, followed by Hugh G-Rection, followed by Yusef fucking Cuck. Not even trying to hide that one. Dang.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah. Yusef, yeah. I'm sure that I have to throw an accent on that to make it not sound so
Why don't you give me an accent?
Yeah. Me?
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay, maybe next time.
It's not happening.
I gotta work on it. I gotta ease myself into it like that goldfish. Yusef fucking cock. It's Swedish.
Okay. Yeah.
Zach Hale. We have Eric Merrill from Elm Effects. Scott Hamilton from the Effects Loop podcast. Tim Nowick from Bardic Audio Devices. Jonathan Jeruzik from 12th Hour Devices. Tyler Rhines from Tyler Casey Riffs on IG. Matthew Fenslaw from everywhere, apparently. Yeah, dude's rowdy.
Yeah, he's getting wild.
Getting flagged on Michael McVeigh and Matthew Davis. And that is the list.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Justin, for joining us.
Thank you guys. It was a ton of fun.
We're waving like it's video, but actually it might just have Justin's video.
Yeah. I'll wave for everybody. Get your hand, you can put your hands in here and then
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.